Okay, so current idea with the necro build, and I will try to get this build and shadow build up on one of the Diablo build sites here today, if I can find the time to do it. But this, since I died on hardcore at 75, I thought we would just experiment with something new. So this one is the something new. So for the skill tree, I guess we'll start off with that. Skill tree is as follows: 1 rank of hemorrhage, 1 rank of enhanced hemorrhage for the blood orb pickup, and then initiate's hemorrhage is 1.6% base life as fortify every time you hit an enemy, and then a 1.5% chance per enemy hit to fortify for 100% base life. So this generates fortify like crazy if you just hold left click down on something. This build is not complete, by the way, so we're still working on it. I'm still kind of tinkering with stuff, but it's got some hidden charm that I dig. The main damage dealing ability is blood surge. I have gear that has extra blood surge charges on it, but the idea is that this hits like an AoE Nova, which I can't do here. We'll go outside of town or something real quick. The idea being that when you right click, it does a Nova. Now, I have an item that gives it an extra pulse, which we'll get to in a second. But that Nova is going to be the primary damage dealer. It pulls HP out of your enemies and then pulses and hits people. There's an extra fix on this from Paranormal Blood Surge that says if you're healthy when you use it, and when you hit an enemy when you're healthy, you gain a charge. At 5 charges, you are guaranteed to do an overpower hit. And this build is basically designed around tons of overpower. That's what we want. We have Blood Mist, which is actually another super huge damage dealing ability, but it doesn't look like it on the surface. And then we have a thing that says casting a skill that overpowers reduces the cooldown of Blood Mist by 2 seconds, which is good because we want Blood Mist to be up as much as we can. And then Blood Mist fortifies you for 0.5% base life each time it hits an enemy, which isn't a lot, but if it hits a lot of enemies, it ends up adding up pretty significantly, and we end up hitting quite a bit of enemies. The other thing that I have is Grim Harvest. Consuming a corpse generates 6 essence, which is for a specific reason, but we're trying to get away from needing this and using this. I would rather be able to put the 3 points into amplify damage, but we don't have that yet. We go with Death's Embrace. Close enemies take 6% more damage and deal 9% less damage. Because of the AoE Nova, we're going to try and get in everybody's face, so we want as much damage reduction as possible. We're going to use Decrepify for the slow and damage reduction, and also because of the extra perks. Enemies hit while afflicted have a 10% chance to be stunned on a lucky hit, and enemies hit have a 15% chance to reduce your active cooldowns by a second. And the reason why we want that is for Blood Mist and also for Corpse Tendril. We're going to be using Corpse Tendril quite a bit on the rotation to be able to pull all of our enemies in so that we can AoE them down. And you have kind of 2 choices here. So because this is actually going to be heavily reliant on blood orbs, we want a lot of blood orbs whenever we possibly can get them for a couple of different reasons. I opted to choose 30% chance to drop a blood orb when damaging enemies when you use Corpse Tendrils. It seems like it generates a lot of them, and the more blood orbs, the better, for a couple of different reasons, and I'll show you that too. And then enemies in range are slowed by 50% before being pulled. Again, you know, good CC and all that. We want them slowed. If we can get them, this one's kind of just like a gateway to be able to get this, or you can opt to use the vulnerable perk, which also helps with damage and DPS and all that. We're also going to grab as many points in Bone Spirit as possible because we're going to be using an item that gives us free Bone Spirits. If Bone Spirit critically strikes, its cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds. That isn't really important because, again, we're getting free Bone Spirit casts when we pick up blood orbs. And after Bone Spirit hits, you generate 30 essence over the next 4 seconds. We're really just looking to get the essence generation out of this because this is definitely something that will essence starve us out. So more essence good, right? We're also going to grab Blood Wave, and the purpose of grabbing Blood Wave is for leaving behind 3 blood orbs as it travels. We have another item that adds more waves to Blood Wave, and that's another big and important thing because instead of it adding just 3 blood orbs, now it waves 3 times, which means it leaves 9. More blood orbs, again, good. We're not using any summons. This is a summonless build. Everybody wants me to make like a summon build, but it takes an awful lot of investment into summon perks, and it also needs gearing specifically around summons in order to make it viable. Otherwise, they turn into paper. But for this, we're going to be using standalone damage reduction by 18% because, again, no summons. We're sacrificing them all. And sacrificing both Skeletal Warriors and Skeletal Mages increases their bonuses by 60%. And then last but not least, we're getting Rathmas Vigor. Increase your maximum life by 10%. Being healthy for 15 seconds, your next blood skill overpowers. Guaranteed overpower is, again, what we want. Now, if you notice, I don't have Bone Spirits on the bar at all. It's like just kind of in the background, being a little sneaky, cheeky, breaky back there. And then for the last points, we're grabbing these here. We're grabbing a handful of these. So we want Gruesome Mending just for the 1 point to get into the rest of the tree. This one here is if you have minions. We don't have minions, so we're not putting any points in that. While healthy, your blood skills deal 18% increased damage. We want those. And then 3 out of 3 Tides of Blood. 15% increased overpowered damage. The bonus is doubled when you're healthy. We We want that, obviously, because we're trying to stay at full health as much as we possibly can. And then Drain Vitality, Lucky Hit, hitting enemies with blood skills has a 25% chance to fortify you for 8% base life. So we like Lucky Hit a lot because there's a lot of Lucky Hit procs for cooldown reduction. There's a lot of Lucky Hit procs for stuns. CC is always good. And there's a lot of Lucky Hit procs that generate Fortify for us. And that's what we really want out of this more than anything. Now, on Grim Harvest, we don't have Corpse Explosion, and we're not using corpses actively aside from tendrils, but that doesn't consume a corpse. So what we're doing is we're using that for essence generation at the time being, because the base affix that you can get off of your aspects from farming a dungeon is you can get restore one of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. So crowd control is Decrepify, crowd control is Corpse Tendrils, all of that crowd control stuff, you know, the passive stun procs, that will generate one essence. I've been trying to and haven't been successful with finding one to get like 3 or 4, which obviously turns this into something amazing, and I can get rid of having to use this. So right now it's a toss-up between moving crowd controls to other people to be able to get free essence charges, right? Because every time we hit an enemy, it can spread the crowd control, which generates us essence. Or the other option is we end up going with Corpse Explosion, which is why I had those 3 points, because I have another pair of boots that I wear commonly, and I'm kind of like going back and forth, where when you turn Blood Mist on, you explode 5 corpses. That's how long, like if there's corpses around, you'll explode 5 of them, because it's actually rate limited, and I wish it wasn't, because you'd get way more essence out of it. But you can get 30 essence out of using the boots from Blood Mist to turn to hit corpses and give you back essence that way. So it's kind of a toss-up. There's another affix that you can also get that will give you back 10 essence up to 20 for every blood orb that you pick up, which is probably the way that I'm going to end up going with this. But as far as I'm aware, I think that's only a ring affix, a ring aspect that I can put on. So I'm kind of like toying with stuff right now. This is still like pretty experimental, but it works. It's super tanky. So the idea here being that through the skill usage and through the gearing, we end up timing the blood wave at 15 stacks to hit a pack with blood wave. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, assuming that we have built up essence, we're going to essence dump on all of the stuff that we're hitting, then use Corpse Tendrils to pull everything in, generate us more essence. We want to make sure that we have Decrepify on the packs. Like, I guess you would do that at the very start. You want to Decrepify everything, because all of the hits from Blood Wave, all of the hits from all of your abilities will start giving you cooldown reduction so that you can get your Blood Wave and your Blood Mist back faster. If the packs are still alive, or if you're fighting like multiple waves of enemies, you want to try and time your 15 stack build up for the next guaranteed overpower for using Blood Mist. And the reason why is because even though Blood Mist has a tooltip that says it only does 48 to 59 damage, when you end up hitting an enemy, it hits for significantly more because of the charge buildup. So we'll run around here for a second and get the charges built up. So it's just as long as I remain healthy, 14, 15, and then we hit it, and you can see now it's hitting for significantly more damage, right? Now, as we build up Fortify, that adds in more damage. So because you're basically doubling you're not really doubling your HP pool, but the Fortify gives you a 10% damage reduction. But it also counts every point of Fortify toward the amount of damage that you do when you overpower an enemy. So instead of hitting them for 5k, you hit them for 10 or 11, at least where I'm at right now at 4,500 health, which I obviously at level 70, I plan to augment as much as I possibly can. So the focus is on generating as big of an HP pool as you can, and then also mitigating damage when fortified, because you can get damage reduction when fortified. So it's very spiky, and it's not very good for single target at like equivalent level, but you can get some pretty good DPS out of this as the itemization improves. So on the board, on the Paragon board, the way that I've built this out so far is you want to kind of rush this and get, you know, the rare and the legendary nodes, because you're looking for bonus overpower damage, and you're looking for plus damage when healthy, plus damage when fortified. Fill all of these nodes in, and then the first two that I've gone with is Dominate. For every 5 willpower within range, you deal 15.4% increased overpower damage. So right now you can see it's only 52.5%, and that's because we need to get this to level 15 so that it branches out wider, so that we can get enough willpower nodes around here to get not only the bonus, but also to be able to make this work the way that we really want it to work, because this is just going to end up increasing all the overpower damage that we're going to get. Ideally, I'd like to actually move this, and I'm probably going to end up swapping this up here, because there's more in range for willpower, or I might even put it on a third board just so that I can get the willpower nodes in a bigger concentration than what's here, because most of this is intelligence, which this node is actually better for. So the other node that's here is Blood Drinker, 60% bonus to magic nodes, but if you have 40 intelligence, this means that every blood orb that you get gives you 7% of your max life as fortified. So again, trying to make sure that we keep the fortify stacks up as high as we possibly can. So with Blood Wave, right, it needs to get all the way through its animations, and the cool thing with Blood Wave is it'll hit through walls. It hits around corners. You can fire it through a wall, like at a doorway, and it'll hit stuff on the other side of the wall. The blood orbs also appear in this pattern. So if you fire it into like a zone wall, a zone border, you're not going to see the blood orbs. So you really need to make sure that you have kind of like a corridor or a wider open space where you can collect them. But between this and the tendrils and everything, sometimes I'll see like 15, 20, 25 blood orbs kind of just like strewn about. And as you run to collect them, when you get 7 in this case, it'll make a bone spirit, right? And then bone spirits obviously are kind of like a free cast, and they do a lot of damage based on how much essence you have. So the idea is to try and keep your essence up so that they do more damage based on that skill. Insofar as gearing is concerned, like this is again pretty early on because I'm only level 70. I haven't like perfectly like tried to itemize all of this yet. This is more like the 0.45 to 45% armor is for survivability. We're stacking life gems, and then in here we're doing 24% overpower damage in both our main hand and our offhand. The gloves have an overwritten imprint that I need to change because I'm toying with stuff, so we need to swap this out. But the main thing that we want here is the Blood Artisan's chest piece. So this, for every 7 orbs, and I'd like to get one to replace this to give me 5, because obviously that's more bone spirits, because we're trying to make like a bone spirit generator that gives us free casts. When you pick up 7 orbs, a free bone spirit gets spawned, which is why that doesn't have to be on our bar, and it passively casts, and it's just added a nice added damage piece to a build that's designed to be very absorbative and doesn't have a whole lot of DPS. The idea here being that we could possibly generate DPS. Variants to this is there's a neck piece that you can get that says that you could do a mini Nova whenever you, for your summons that are around you, each one of your summons would get a mini Nova that does like 500 to 800 damage. That will also overpower hit. I've played with it, but it really wasn't working out as well as I thought because the minions kind of turn into paper unless you really spec into them, which means other affixes that would kind of detract from what I'm trying to accomplish with this. But the other affixes, consuming a corpse has a 22% chance to spawn a blood orb. So again, with the idea being that we would use boots that would cause corpse explosion, it generates blood orbs. Blood orbs good. This also works with a minion generator build. So if you are consuming corpses for your priest to heal your minions, or if you're generating minions, consuming those corpses would count as blood orb generation. It also counts if you are using things like Bone Storm. If you have an affix for Bone Storm that consumes corpses to increase the duration of Bone Storm, that counts as one, which is another idea that I had, but haven't really played with that either. When you hit a crowd-controlled enemy, we kind of already talked about this, there's a 50% chance that the crowd control effect spreads. Blood Wave fires 2 additional waves, each dealing 53% less damage, which I just showed you. This one is also pretty important. Each percent of your max life you heal beyond, including potion usages, it gives you bonus overpower damage on your next overpowering attack. So if you see here, it's counted up. There's a counter here that went to 112. When this is 0, no matter if you have full life, full fortify, it doesn't matter. This gives you the ability to chug a potion whenever you want, and it will just tick that number up, and it just gives you bonus damage on overpower, which is huge. We like bonus damage on overpower. That's like the bread and butter. Generating 1 primary resource whenever you crowd control an enemy. Whenever your blood skills overpower, you get 50% attack speed. So this one is also pretty helpful. When you overpower, especially on your left click, if you end up like really essence starved, generating that 50% attack speed generates a whole lot of essence in a really short amount of time if you just kind of like hold left click on an enemy for a few seconds. And then lastly, Blood Surge's Nova echoes again after a short delay, dealing 47% less damage. So, and we put that on our necklace. We want it on the neck piece because the neck piece gives us a 50% bonus, which means the penalty is that much less. So that's what this is, the doubling. Now, if you hold the button down, it really starts overlapping hard. Right? So it ends up going off like this Blood Nova firework thing. And again, you can see the counter here. When it gets up to 5, you end up getting a free overpower, and it does pretty good damage. That's it. All right. So that's the whole build. And I'll have Saint put in some B-roll footage and all that. And yeah, there you go.